New York's been on my mind a lot, right? So New York was, after Paris, right, and London and Berlin, and New York's become the art center of the world and has held that position for quite a while, I would say. Is that accurate in your opinion?
Yeah, I would say it still has I don't know if it's still the leader, if it is the leader, because I think um, there's other, in terms of the contemporary art world, a lot of, I think London or
Really?
even
Yeah.
the powers of financial institutions like in Hong Kong even, or
Mm.
China. There's a lot that have developed within the past like even 10 years.
Okay.
New
Um,
York still definitely has its stronghold though.
yeah. And that's what I wanted to get your opinion on. When I thought about you coming on today, I thought to myself, because I've been talking about New York quite a bit, just talking to myself about it, but also talking about it on the other programs, about this role that New York plays. And when I think about, us meeting, I guess it's like 20 years ago, I mean, obviously the phones, everything's different, right? I mean, phones are different, barely using, I mean, email, right? But I mean, I probably had a BlackBerry when I met you, for example, right? So
Right, right.
how do you see, this isn't even an art question, so someone who's been around New York for a long time and been walking those streets, how has the world changed, in terms of New York life, in terms of Manhattan, traditional Soho, Tribeca, Greenwich Village, financial district, the art scene. I have a lot of observations, but I want to, off the top of your head, let me know. What do you see? Do you see a difference?
Um, yeah. So before there used to be a lot more, I guess, gatekeepers that you'd had to go through, or even different, almost like, yeah, d- different kinds of steps or people you'd have to, yeah. There was definitely a lot more gatekeeping to try to break in,
You mean in terms like
but
galleries and
galleries or even just selling your work or getting known.
yeah,
Now it's been so democratized because of social media.
yeah, yeah,
It's just so much easier to just get your work out there.
yeah. It's like
And
this,
and so
like a podcast. Like anybody years ago, it was three channels, basically had control of everything, right? Now it's just
yeah,
unlimited. Has
yeah.
it changed though? Has it? Do you see a weakening, or do you see? Is there a downside to that? I mean, there's a tremendous freedom to be able to produce your work, right, and to market it and get it out and people to see it. I remember that you remember those days. Like I haven't been in that scene in a while, but was it Wednesday night or Thursday night was gallery night? Down in Soho,
Yeah,
Tribeca, right, and Chelsea, right, and everybody going from gallery to gallery, and seeing the new exhibitions. And in a way, it's kind of like the lost art of the newspaper, where people enjoyed the newspaper so much, right? And now that we don't have that, and younger people don't even understand like the significance of the New York Times on a Sunday morning. Are you in that scene anymore in the sense of the galleries, or is
not
that
really.
something that
No.
is it even a scene from you understand?
Yeah, no. It's definitely, there's still a scene there. I just don't really. I'm not really involved or concerned about it. I just kind of. I think if anything, I figured out what my lane was,
Mm-hmm.
my niche,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just kind of just really focused on uh, nurturing and developing that part of it, of what I do.
Yeah.
But I definitely keep tabs on like, the things that are the art in terms of the art world, the artists that are being highlighted or the artwork that, they're trying to promote. But I really am not really concerned or active in that scene at all.
Yeah. And what is your lane then? So you find your lane, you find your niche. What is it?
Yeah, it's calligraphy. It's definitely a Western style calligraphy, but influenced the philosophy influenced a lot by um, Chinese calligraphy.
And tell us about the transition. You go from just writing letters to
Yeah.
and we're going to show some. We'll show it right now. We'll show you some viewers some of your paintings, or do you call them paintings?
So, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
But a lot of the stuff that's on it ranges from logo types to more just abstract, um, gestural type of work.
Hmm.
And I would say when I began to start experimenting more from uh, creating large, more on a larger scale, and then also treating the words more as like abstract gestures rather than the letters. The letters do inform some of the movements, but the gestures are more um, intuitive, right? And so it's just more. There's a little bit more expression, and so that's where I'm delving more into the Chinese philosophy of things,
So is that a
of their
direction you
approach.
continually go deeper in that direction? Do you feel
Yeah,
like that's
definitely.
definitely the river's going? It continues to go that way.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it comes from, to me, the art uh, serves as an expression of me being a channel. And so um,
A channel
when,
for but a channel for what?
yeah, so when I'm deep in prayer, let's say, and I'm connected to the Holy Spirit, I feel like there's a certain sense of letting go, and I'm just very open. And so there's a different kind of rhythm that's being established. And so it's just kind of a process of just surrendering and listening and then moving. And so it's there's a rhythm that comes with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that I've been leaning a lot into even like the different mystic traditions of
Yeah.
the Christian faith, and then tying that in with some of um, the Tao, even,
Hmm.
movement, the Tai Chi, right? And so just seeing how um, what are the energies that they are tuning into? Maybe in Chinese, ancient Chinese tradition, maybe I don't they didn't know God from a Christian perspective, but they were definitely tuned in or tapped into an energy,
Yeah.
So there's a or some vibration. So that's the thing that I'm very keen on connecting to, and what are the similarities. And I think the interesting thing is, as society advances, right, as AI continues to develop, gets more sophisticated, um, I think they're ultimately it's going to get to a point where they're going to see how it's all connected, how this unseen reality is actually there is a kind of like th- there is a formula to translate or to connect it all, or to yeah. Uh, because it's already with them talking about with quantum theory, all these theories, that kind of have this way of uh, how one thing can affect something else just by the thought of it.
Yeah.
And those are the things the mystics were already tuning into,
Sure.
of just
Yeah.
being able to think about it from the even from the yeah, I think therefore I am, to just there are a lot of traditions that delve into how thought can affect, intentional thought can affect your reality. And I mean, we can conveniently kind of categorize it as being in a state of mindfulness, that intentionality, rather than just random thoughts.
Yeah.
But I think as we continue to advance, as a culture and society, I think all those things they're going to, it'll all be kind of quantified in some way.
Yeah.
There'll be an
I mean,
explanation.
it's interesting you bring up AI, because I do think we look at this and the word singularity, right? When we reach the singularity, that moment when the AI has reached a culmination, if you will, right? And I also think it's interesting because singularity, of course, is the word that's the center of the black hole, right? Is a singularity, right? The actual area where it's so dense, right? It's so dense that no light can escape. That's the singularity. And the black hole is the actual event horizon, right? So the hole is just the area that light can't escape from. The singularity being what's causing the light not to escape. And so it's kind of interesting because as the AI expands and as the internet and communication, social media, and these opportunities for expression expand outward toward a singularity, the core of the Big Bang, if you will, is a singularity, right? So, so expanding outward leads to a singularity, and contracting all the way back to the beginning is a singularity. And, and it's kind of in that theme, right, of contraction and expansion, right? Breath, waves,
Yes.
right? I mean, I know this answer, I think, from you because I know you. So you're in the meditative state.
Yeah.
You're in the contemplative phase. You're creating work. Who else is involved?
So if it's just for me, it's just me listening to the Holy Spirit, because that's my entry or my familiarity with entering into the unseen. That's my relationship with what it is to be spiritual. So when I'm engaged with the Holy Spirit, it's very much a part of its expression from surrendering is probably the best way I can put it. It's just being able to have this surrendered state and just being able to move or just to flow or to respond in that surrendered state.
Yeah. So it's fair to say that when you're in that state, you are communicating.
Sure. Yeah. I guess that is a way of saying that, because it's listening and it's responding, but it's more dimensional. It's multidimensional, because it's not just listening, communicating. It's feeling. It's hearing, smelling. It's all of it.
Yeah. So you're communicating on the most primal level, but as you're saying, so the Holy Spirit's involved. You believe in the Holy Spirit, obviously.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's I guess what my awkward question of who else is involved. Do you believe there is? So, because some people, if they look at meditation or contemplation or any other activity that resembles the street level understanding of those words, right?
Sure.
Would say that just sitting still, it's meditation isn't necessarily communication. It's just a complete stabilization of all impulse, if you will, or senses are stilled, right? And it's just a kind of a flat line. Where it's just completely a lack of disturbance or data, right? Whereas, from the religious contemplative phase, right, whether it's Christianity or certainly Judaism, and I think all the major religions would be consistent with this, that at that primal level, there's actually a communication going on with the creator of the universe. Right, there's a connection to somebody else, right? I think they've done studies, right,
Yeah.
where they
Yeah.
analyze prayer versus meditation, where somebody's not attempting to communicate, where the conversational part of the brain is much more active during prayer, and not because you're repeating words, but because the intention is to have a conversation, if you will, even if it's not a
Huh.
traditional conversation, right? You're talking to the Holy Spirit.
Sure.
I forgot to ask you about the painting behind you.
Yeah, it's significant because it's my first show I had in Chelsea. And I think you remember just the whole excitement of that, having it
Yeah,
my
yeah,
first show, and um, even preparing for it. Working at my dad's church, the whole, the attic there,
yeah. I remember.
the upper
Yeah,
room, and so it was. There's a lot of significance, not just only the place where I created it, but the fact that you were a part of it as well. You wrote a very generous statement about the work, and yeah, that was my first entry into the contemporary art world.
yeah. I remember that. Your father was he was what, the campus minister, right, at Columbia or something, or
No,
Berkeley.
it's funny, close. It was actually the first Methodist church in the eastern seaboard. I guess just the eastern part of the U.S. The
Yeah,
first one was in Hawaii, but this was the second one. And so the significance is that that church served as kind of the gateway for a lot of significant Koreans, a lot of historically significant Koreans. And
yeah. I remember that show. I remember the show.
yeah,
Yeah, and I wrote an essay for it. That's right. I forgot.
and this whole
Yeah,
thing about
yeah.
the um, fences, because I was just breaking down this
That's
idea
right.
of what it
Now it's
is
coming
for
back to me.
strokes,
Yeah,
right? I
yeah,
was using
yeah,
the
yeah.
chopstick to make these strokes up and down.
Now it's coming back to
Yeah,
me. You had that studio, and then it was after Legends, right? Remember that meeting we used to go to, Legends, and
yeah,
then and
yeah, yeah.
you know what's funny, dude? Hold on, check this out. Look what I have on my shelf here. This is so funny, man, that we're talking about this. This is the day I met you. The day I met you, I had this on me, and I just happened to have it right here. I was showing Maria the other day. Do you remember when I was making these cards? You remember all the sayings I used to make? Remember? I used to
Yeah.
I used to write like I love them. I love the morning so much I take 5 or 6 naps a day. Remember those things?
That's
Hermit,
hilarious.
look, remember these? Hermit the frog. Because I wanted to be a monk. In vitro veritas. Um, it's so funny because they were here, and I saw them the other day. I was showing Maria, and I forgot like this whole chapter. Remember? And I was gonna sell them in Central Park on myself. I was gonna set up a table and be like one of those
We should
people.
revisit that. I think those are pretty. It's
Yeah,
pretty good, man.
and
Yeah.
but David and I, that's right, and you met, and you were gonna help me with these. Thanks for the help, dude. Nothing ever came of it. You failed me completely. And
But
then you
I
did.
think I have a better grasp of expression now. I think before it was so one. It was very flat. I only knew this kind of one expression of line.
Do you remember also when? So David and I used to go to this prayer meeting, and I'm Catholic, so we don't pray out loud or anything. Pray out loud, but we don't like do this hands up stuff. And David's Methodist, and he's kind of a little subdued in his prayer life. And then all these other guys were like really wild and free evangelicals, remember? And then after
Yeah,
the meeting, they would
yeah,
go out into the street and pray for people. And I remember like you and I being and you and I being like, "What the hell is going on here, man?"
yeah,
Remember? Yeah. I hope nobody
yeah,
sees me.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. It was so. It was such a different experience, but there was something very
Yeah.
um, genuine, and
Oh, it was
in their
awesome.
affections,
That
and
was one of the
I
highlights
loved
of
it.
one of the highlights of my life, man. Those mornings, that was intense, man. Really intense and beautiful. It was good. Yeah, I wonder where all those guys are now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's true. I still keep in touch with a couple of them.
Yeah.
They're still good brothers, but a lot of them, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But that was definitely, I would say, a pivotal point in my spiritual journey because it was my introduction
It
to the
was
power of
amazing.
prayer. Yeah,
I'm telling people that, in case anybody, in case the three people that watch this are interested, the we, it was amazing, dude. It was unbelievable. I was walking. I moved into. I was just came from Manhattan, and I met a guy who was walking his dog, and somehow he's like, "Do you want to go to a prayer meeting?" And I never been to anything like that in my life, and I'm like, "This guy walking his dog asked me to go to a prayer meeting," and it was,
wow, that's
yeah. What was the
crazy.
guy? What was the guy's name? Maybe he was the actor who was bald. Anyway, but he and I was like,
Yeah,
"Yeah,
yeah,
bro,
yeah,
yeah, yeah." What
that's
was his
right.
name, dude? Anyway, so I went, and it was like 12 people. I'm making that number up. I'm not trying to be biblical. It was like 10, 12 people, right? And we were sitting in that back room in Charity Water, right? The big charity in
Yeah,
Manhattan, in Soho, right? We tried back there,
yeah,
and and then it grew to like 100 guys every week at 7 in the morning on Thursday. Remember?
that's
100,
crazy.
150 people. Remember? It was crazy, dude. It was really
Yeah.
something. It was so positive and so good. And every time I see Yves Saint Laurent, I think of it, you know, because
Mm.
Brad
Yep, yep,
Cry.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
No,
right, man.
it was amazing,
Yeah.
amazing thing to witness. I think there
Yeah.
was just so much good, you know. Of course, like things like the world creeps in, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone's views and whatever, but
Sure.
the heart of it was so it was so good.
Yeah.
That it really helped shape um, and encouraged me to just go deeper in prayer.